Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. So, my name is Stephanie Anderson, and I am the president of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is made up of members with the common interests and concerns related to the business environment in the Greater Bowie area. The foundation of the Chamber is its growing and diverse membership, which accomplishes the aims of the organization by volunteer service of its board of directors and standing committees. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the members of the board of directors and ask them to kind of wave and let people know who you are. Our mission is to protect, enhance, and promote local business. We do that by providing a voice for businesses at the local, county, and state levels. We are the organization of choice for business advocacy in the Greater Bowie area. We strive to educate, advocate, and connect our members. The Chamber is honored to host the Candidates Forum on behalf of our members this evening. Tonight, you will have an opportunity to hear from the candidates running for mayor and the at-large candidates running for city council. The forum will be moderated by Brad Hyland. Mr. Hyland will introduce himself and go over the rules of the forum. Again, I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and please use this opportunity to learn about the candidates.
Thanks very much. I'm really happy I had a chance to dress like a grown-up this week. So thanks, Pauline. And actually, she had asked me if I wanted to do this, and I thought she said mentor. And I didn't know she said moderator, so this is very exciting. That's not true. Just really quickly, point of order, if you haven't been here before, the restrooms, out the door in the back, take a left, take a right, 6 more lefts. No, it's out the door, left, right, and then down the middle of the hall. Someone will point you there, but that's where the restrooms are. And then for fire exits, right here. Okay? Anybody have questions? Give me a shout. Just really quickly about me, I'm not running for anything. I'm safe. And I was in business locally for about 35 years. I was in the landscape industry. And all I ever wanted to do was be a voice actor. So I quit. I quit my good job after 35 years to become a voice actor, and now I have a studio in my house and customers all around the globe, and it's the most exciting thing I've ever done. So if you want to talk about that, you can talk to me later, and I'll give you a business card, and we can hook up about your needs, or if anybody wants to be a voice actor, we can talk about that. I have a lot of reading I'm going to do here just because that's what I'm supposed to do. So bear with me. We'll try to get through as quickly as we can. Basically, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. And if somebody has a question, you can ask later. But it's just sort of point of order that we have to go through this. Okay? Everybody's okay with that? Okay. No political signs are to be placed at Kenhill Center or on the grounds of the Kenhill Center. So if you put one out there, go get it right now. No? Nobody did? Okay. The no strolling solicitation by the candidates or of the people of the campaign. If someone comes up to them, they can hand them some campaign material. The format is an unbiased moderator will pose questions to the candidates, written, submitted by the chamber, and public on the forum. I will try to maintain the order, but somebody's going to be keeping time, and I know you all are very respectful. I've heard great reports back from how this group has handled these kinds of events before. Each candidate will have an equal and fair opportunity to express his or her positions and issues. and a timer will be used to indicate end of time allotments. A bell will indicate that the candidate's time has elapsed. General forum rules. Order of appearance with each group of candidates will be chosen at random or alphabetical order, and we'll try to reverse it for the closing comments. Opening statements of 2 minutes will allow candidates to introduce themselves. Candidates are asked prepared questions on themes important to chamber members and our community. Written questions on issues will be submitted by city residents and screened for duplication and clarity only. I saw they were doing that in the back, so a few of you have some good questions. I'll read the questions as they come up, and answers to questions on issues will be limited to 2 minutes each, and each candidate will be given the chance to answer. Time permitting, each candidate will provide closing statements to wrap up and cover any issues not discussed, with an equal amount of time given to each candidate. No substitutes or stand-ins for candidates are allowed, and no pre-recorded statements will be accepted. Answers to questions will be typically limited to 1 to 2 minutes. Sometimes it happens that only one candidate in a contested election accepts a debate invitation, or that candidate cancels a debate appearance after agreeing to participate, leaving the debate with only one participant. Empty chair, that's not happening right now, but that's just a point of order. No candidates, board members, and event organizers will be allowed into the venue wearing campaign buttons for their candidacy or any candidate at the event. No direct interaction of any kind will be allowed from the audience. The audience cannot ask questions. Only the moderator will be allowed to interact with the candidates. There will be no winner declared by the moderator or event sponsors. I put that into my contract because I didn't want to be responsible. There will be a table for candidate or candidate supporters to place handout material, but materials may not be handed out. The Candidates Forum is meant to inform the citizens of our community and create an opportunity for community building. If all candidates adhere to the rules, everyone will benefit through increased visibility and general interest in the community. And the mayoral candidates are, everybody's sitting here, correct? Mr. Adams, Mr. Brady, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lucchi, Mr. Ruth. Yeah, let's give him a hand. Okay, the first question I'm going to read through. Widening of the overcrowded routes 197 and 450 has been one of the city's top priority road projects. Oh, point of order, I'm screwing up already.
That's probably completely my fault.
Yes, it is, but that's
sure.
Okay.
Each one gets an opportunity to have a 2-minute introduction.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. That's
Yeah, my bad. So, why don't we just start at the top, Mr. Adams? Or which, you guys can pick. Which one do you want to go first? Yes, you can.
I'm sitting so low. I prefer to be up so everybody can see me also.
There, take that for you.
Hello, Bowie. Thanks for coming out. My name is Emerson DeWitt Ruth. I want to be your next mayor. I'm a 15-year resident here in this community, been married 30 years, have 5 children. I'm a retired Los Angeles police officer, a 10-year active duty Marine, 6-year Marine Corps Reserve, Desert Storm veteran. I was elected for 8 years on school boards in 2 different areas in California. Been on the City of Bowie Board of Personnel Appeals for 2006. I'm an entrepreneur, licensed Maryland home improvement contractor, and I believe that this city should go a lot of places. I have the integrity, knowledge, and courage to be your next mayor. I believe in engaging our citizens, balanced neighborhoods, and public safety. We need to build on our strengths and measure what matters. Measure what matters. Our city has been on a great course. It's been on a great course. We've had revenue growth. We've had growth in the residential and business sections. However, with that growth comes challenges. And we need to be prepared for those challenges and attempt to be proactive to protect our accomplishments. We need to look at our ingress and egress as we come in and out of our city. And my time is up. I believe in engaging citizens, balanced neighborhoods, and public safety. My name is Emerson DeWitt Ruth, your next mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Ruth. Thank you. I think we're going to go ahead. Mics are hot where you're sitting, so I think I'd prefer to have everybody sit and respond from the table, if that's okay. Thank you.
Wow, look at this crowd. You think there's an election coming up or something. Good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come and hear the candidates, because this is what democracy is all about. And thank you so much to the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce for putting this on this evening. I'm very proud to have been the first two-term president of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce and a longtime member, and it's a great organization that provides a great service to the city of Bowie. I'm running for mayor for one simple reason. I love the city. My parents moved here when I was 4 years old in 1962. You could do the math. And I was raised here. When I finished law school, my wife and I could have moved anywhere. I said, no, we're moving to Bowie, and bought my parents' house. So we've lived in the same place since 1962, and we love it. Bowie, as you know, has a strong city manager form of government, which means that the city manager runs the day-to-day operations of the city, and the mayor and council provide oversight. And so the city does a great job of running the government and providing great services to the city, which is why people live here: police services, leaf collection, snow removal, trash collection, recycling. But I think we could do even better and be having a greater focus on customer service. The most important job for the next mayor, though, is to be an advocate, to be the biggest advocate and cheerleader for the city, because as you hear, most of the problems this evening you'll hear about need cooperation from the county and the state governments. And that's my specialty. I get things done at the county and the state level, and I've done that for the city repeatedly. Funds for the senior center, funds for the non-emergency call center, and funds for the turf field at Allen Pond and White Marsh. So as you hear the questions and answers tonight, keep that in mind, that I'm the one who can get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucci. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes. Hello, Bowie. I am a incumbent Prince George's County Civic Federation Government Director. My name is Keith Jackson. I pledge to bring community and government experience, sound judgment, and know-how to office. During my tenure as a U.S. federal government and volunteer, city committee participant, and former active police explorer in my youth, I gained an understanding of the complexities of local, state, and federal government, including its capabilities and limitations. In my candidacy, I see helpful and positive roles for the mayoralty. Most importantly, the primary role for the mayor should be to be an advocate for the people of the city. There are many issues that will come before us in the next 2 years. They include transportation issues like infrastructure and transit service. In addition, we need to strengthen our community foundations to bring more jobs to Bowie. Second, the mayor should be a vital and active communications link between the people and the city. In my role as a longtime volunteer and federal employee, I'm constantly in touch with both citizens and business owners, especially during federal contracts being awarded and working with the general public. I understand their needs and desires. Third, as mayor, I can be a valued partner with the city manager by taking advantage of my experience, skills, and perspectives gained from my 5+ years of community activism. Fourth, because of this experience, I have people skills that can be used to bring people together toward common goals and unity. The issues before us continue to be balancing fiscal responsibility with sound judgment, which I can finesse with ease given my tax expertise and background in government. I believe that the foundation of any thriving community should be recreation, the arts, education, shopping, and If we want to attract strong companies to the area with better jobs, we must work to enhance and expand these categories. I look forward to a positive campaign.
Mr. Jackson. Mr. Brady.
Thank you. Let me start off by thanking and commending the Chamber. I think this is the 12th Chamber Forum I've participated in. This is the 12th election I've run in. I want to thank everyone for coming out because democracy depends on you, the voter, to become educated on the candidates. And I want to commend the candidates. I believe we all are demonstrating our love for the city by stepping forward and being our willingness to be mayor. So I want to commend all of my colleagues. Unlike the other four candidates, I have direct experience, gained over 22 years as city councilman. My background is in engineering, electrical engineering specifically, but engineers are problem solvers, and I brought that aspect to every council meeting, every discussion about development, every discussion about policies and what have you. I was able to help my colleagues move through the sometimes complex analysis of various problems and projects. And I think the city is better for that time on it. Some of the successes while I was on council was the startup of the police department, was the construction of the South Bowie Library, the Center for the Performing Arts. And when you come to development, one of the interesting things is how we handled the Bowie Town Center. We were able to leverage participation with the citizens, with the developer to take a project that everyone agreed upon down to the county, and it was approved. My vision is a responsible leadership role for the city. We have a lot of challenges that will require us to work cooperatively with state, federal, county, and park and planning. And I believe my 22 years experience and my accomplishments give me the leadership role to do such as we need. So I want to thank everyone, and I look forward to serving as mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. And Mr. Adams.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tim Adams. I've been a resident of Bowie for 25 years. And for some of you, I know that makes me a newbie, but anyway. The thing that's important and we need to realize is that, you know, I've raised my family here. I'm the father of three, the new grandfather, and I'm excited about that. My wife has dedicated her life to the community as well. The one thing I need to point out is that I've been very blessed in my business. And I say that particularly thanking the Chamber for an opportunity to be here. I'm celebrating 30 years in business this year. And what I do is every day we support the warfighter. And that's what I've dedicated my life to. But what's exciting about that is I operate out of 16 states, and at any point you can find people who work with my organization in many parts of the world. And I say that because I've been vetted for leadership and for integrity on every level, from the national level to the state to the local level. You know, and I think it's important we understand that we've talked about where Bowie is. I love Bowie. That's why I'm running. But one of the things that convinced me to run too is that Bowie is in a great place right now, but we need to make sure it maintains that. And what that takes is the type of leadership that can orchestrate and understand what it is to run a large organization. And what I mean by that is we have to look at where we are. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've had lower income than we've had expenses. And we've got to face that. We've tapped into our reserves. One of the reasons I'm running is because we've got to have someone who has the acumen to be able to deal with that. You know, we need to make sure that we keep Bowie the place that I talk about. My platform is simply make sure we keep Bowie safe, keep Bowie beautiful, and most importantly, keep Bowie family friendly.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Now we're going to go through a series of questions from the chamber, and I'm just going to read through them, and then we'll have the candidates answered in the same order that they did their introductions. First question. Widening of the overcrowded routes 197 and 450 has been one of the city's top priority road projects, but they are reliant on state officials for funding. For several years, the city has sought state funding for improvements to Route 197 between Kenhill Drive and the relocated Route 450 that would make the two-lane road into a four-lane road. Community members have said that the current lack of capacity has resulted in an increase of traffic onto the city's local street system. Officials have also unsuccessfully sought additional funding to improve Route 450 from Stony Brook Drive to Route 3, which is said to be critical to the city's economic development because it runs through a major commercial district. So the question to each of you is, what would be your priority on road repairs for Route 197 and 450? And what is your plan to ensure these projects actually get done? We're going to do it from...
I can't sit down. This is how I gauge, as being a police officer and things like that. One thing I know about the ingress and egress in this city, something has to be done. The 197, 450, that's in the engineering phase in the state right now. We got to put more pressure above us, county, statewide, maybe even nationally. We got presidential elections coming up and things like that. We need to know people. It was also mentioned, of course, that the mayor of the city, he has to be an advocate for everybody. I have contacts, I talk to people too. I work with Department of Housing and Community Development. I had opportunities to give input on Project Core, a very large project that's going on. Your mayor has to know somebody. He has to advocate citywide, countywide, statewide, and also nationally and internationally. There's one thing I think we should do, but our ingress and egress in this city has to be done. A lot of us commute, DC, Baltimore, it's getting really, really rough. There's some things we really need to work on. I'm from Los Angeles area, I know traffic. I can tell you that right now. I know traffic, collision investigator for many, many years. I believe I can handle that. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll stay seated out of respect. Route 197, 25 years ago, was at the very top of the list for funding. And there were folks who lived on one side of it who were against it because there were some trees that would be cut down. And the county executive at the time said, okay, I can handle that. You're now at the bottom of the list. There are other people who want the funding. And so slowly over the past 25 years, Route 197 has gotten back up towards the top of the list. The planning has been done, the design's been done, the engineering's been done, the rights-of-way have been done. All we need is to get the governor and the Maryland Department of Transportation to focus on Bowie and Prince George's County, and I can get that done. Route 450 is a different story. The plans are to go from Stony Brook to Route 3 to widen it. But you know, if you widen that, you encourage a development off of 450 that nobody seems to want. And so I think that needs to be a lower priority and needs to be studied in terms of the whole general context of the neighborhood. But the main thing is I have a record of getting things done with the state, and I can get that done too. Thanks.
I think that with my old cronies, which will be my old cronies if elected in Prince George's County government, I can work with them, since the county is a state administrative division, to effectively widen the road after taking a consensus of what citizens want in order to effectively get a mission-focused solution for the problem of traffic.
Okay. Thank you for the question. It's kind of interesting. When I left the council 4 years ago, we were expecting construction to begin this year. And over the last year, or the last 4 years with the current council, somehow that slipped. And my understanding from staff is that they are having to redesign, so it's not a matter of just getting the state to step forward and complete the project, and no individual is going to have the connections to get that done. What it takes is the effort of the city government, the elected officials, and our county council representatives to work with our state delegation to get it back on the priority that it should have been. As I said, it was supposed to be in the middle of construction right now. So it's a challenge to look at that, but it needs to move forward. That needs to be number one priority. 450 from Stony Brook to 3 is an interesting one, and that needs to be, and that's been probably 25, 30 years on the books too. it needs to be done, but the leverage dealing with the Jesuit property is that they want to annex to get water and sewer, and we can keep them from getting that. So that is not an implication. Thank you.
Well, I think the obvious answer to all of us is making sure on 197 that we complete that and get it done. The relationship that we have is one that the mayor, the city council, need to put the emphasis on talking to our county council members and to the county exec and making sure that we work with our state delegation. I mean, that's a known. One of the things that we have to address with that when we're looking at doing that is making sure that we realize as Bowieites, we have 2 new at-large county council members. And one of the things we need to accept is that we can put pressure on them to make it so that it isn't just our single county council member who's doing it, but we have at least 3 votes that we can get to start the process to make sure that we move up on it. I have relationships with those throughout the state. I've been on the Maryland Economic Development Commission as a commissioner. I've been supported by the state, and we can make sure that we move forward with the program.
Thank you. Pauline, point of order. Are there questions, the next 3 questions, or are we switching? Can you come take a look? Talk amongst yourselves.
So then this.
One thing I'd like to say real quick.
Oh, excuse me.
No,
Sir.
I'm
No disrespect to Tim.
No, we-
Let's sit up and talk with no disrespect to Tim. That was the whole thing.
I hear you.
Okay, then we go to this one and pick a different order for them to answer.
Okay.
And then that one.
Okay,
Okay.
good. You can be seated again. I'm sorry. Thanks, gentlemen. Second question. Bowie has long been admired for its balanced budget. If elected, how will you maintain the balanced budget while addressing the many current needs of the city? And what experience has prepared you to run a city with a $60 million budget? So we're going to reverse the order.
Well, that's one that I think is at the key to why I'm running. One of the things we have to make sure is that we do have a balanced budget, that we move forward. And as I talked about in my opening statement, a part of that goes to the mere fact that, I mean, let's be very candid. My budget of my company is twice the size of the city's. So I understand what it is to work with a large budget. And I understand all the processes and being able to put in the matrices and set up people and hold them accountable. The other part of that is that we've got to do economic development. That's one of the things that's a key to the city. We have to bring in additional revenues. Ways to do that that are immediately available to us is, number one, partnering with Bowie State University to bring in that. Working with the chamber to provide mentoring and opportunities for growing business, as well as the opportunity to simply sit down and talk to the county council, talk to the economic development for the state, as well as for the county, to make sure that they put us high on the list and that we work through that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. And it is true, they have been transferring from the reserves to cover operating expenses for the last 3 years, which is kind of surprising. The way you do that is to look at, can you use efficiency of services in the services that are provided in order to gain some relief when it comes to the cost of services. Look to new revenue sources. There are opportunities where we'd have to go to the state to look at new structures, new opportunities, and what have you, as far as fees and structures. And then the obvious one is to stimulate economic growth, because as the city succeeds, the business community of the city succeeds, there's a benefit to the city, because much of the revenue, property taxes and the like, that come from businesses go right into the city coffers, as opposed to requiring services from them. So if we can get the businesses to grow and develop, that would be one way of doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, can I have the question repeated?
Sure. Bowie has long been admired for its balanced budget. If elected, how will you maintain the balanced budget while addressing the many current needs of the city? And what experience has prepared you to run a city with a $60 million budget?
The issues before us continue to be balancing fiscal responsibility with sound judgment, which I can finesse with ease given my tax experience and background in government. During contracts being awarded and during tax season in the VITA program in government, we actually focus on taxes and budgeting. And I think that we will keep money in the bank and keep our bills paid on time.
Thank you. So I have 35 years of dealing with state, county, and city budgets, including 8 years on the senior staff and cabinet of former county executive Wayne Curry, dealing with a $3 billion budget. So I know the ins and outs of budgets. But here's a few facts. One is the law requires the city to have a balanced budget. That's the law. Two is Bowie has much larger reserves than probably any local government you're going to find anywhere, much larger than the county in terms of percentage. A third is the past 20 years, the commercial tax base of the city, means the other people's money, has gone from $1 billion to $8 billion, and is projected to go larger. So the trend's been in the right place, and so we need to continue that. And then finally, we always have to evaluate whether the city is in certain businesses that maybe it doesn't need to be in the 21st century, and we need to always reevaluate those programs. But I think I have the knowledge and the acumen to make sure the budget serves the people. I mean, and that's the difference between running a government and running a business. Running a government, it's for the people. Running the business is for profit. That's the difference.
Thank you. Mr. Ruth?
Yes. As a prior elected official, I've dealt with budgets of this size. I understand what it is. Here in Bowie, about 60% of our budget comes from real property tax. Once again, it is a law that you have to have a balanced budget. And one thing I do know is that we need more business growth to add more into that. There's a lot of different avenues where business growth comes from. One of our second major contributors to our budget comes from the cable and wire industry. There may be some things that we can work on in that area. But yes, I have 8 years experience in a light community and doing things like this. And one thing I do know in Bowie is that our residential areas are growing, which will help our revenue. Our businesses are growing, and just this year, just in the last year alone, we've had really good growth, about 2.5%. So yes, Bowie's in a good place, but it takes leadership from all of the council members, the mayor, and all the engaged citizens to make sure we do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll go with question number 3. And we can reverse the order, or we can go back the way we came. Number 4, okay. I'll just be ready. I'm going to shoot a name, and you guys have to be ready. Okay. Yes. Here's the question. Many Bowie residents believe the city is overdeveloped. Please share your position on the city's current development plan.
Well, part of the problem is that the city's development plan isn't what governs. It's the county's development plan, which is 12 years old and is overdue for being redone, the master plan. So this is the largest city in the state of Maryland that doesn't have its own land use power, and that's just unacceptable. And we need to get our own land use power, and I think I can, working with others, get that done. The other thing is, I'm the only person in this table who's made the pledge not to accept any developer money or in-kind contributions. You have 2 other candidates here who have signs up on major developments, one the airport and one the Jesuit property. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to have any question about my integrity. And finally, I have the background to get things done for the city of Bowie in terms of development, in terms of negotiating with developers. I can get that done and make sure the best deal for Bowie is always done. Sometimes the best deal for Bowie is no deal at all. And I'm prepared to do that if that's the case as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead to Mr. Brady.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Wow. We don't control our own destiny. That's a problem. And we need to work our way to getting full zoning and planning authority. We have made incremental improvements in that. And I find it interesting that in 2015, the city put in, the last time the city put in a bill to try and get additional zoning and planning authority that Geraldine Valentino Smith, Delegate Smith, put in, we weren't able to get it out of our own Prince George's delegation. And the city lobbyist was not able to move it forward then, so I don't see how he can do it now if he's elected mayor. And I think it's interesting in that the fact that without good, positive relationships with the county, with park and planning, we're at the mercy of their decisions because they will just as soon ignore us if we don't work with them as do what we seek from them. So thank you.
Mr. Ruth?
That's correct. We are not in control of our own destiny. The county council, and in conjunction with the state, has a lot of control over what we do. The master plan does need to be revitalized. And all we can do is try to, at this time, try to bond together and put more pressure on our county, which elections may be coming soon, puts more pressure on our county and also our state legislator to help us in our situation. Being the sixth largest city in Maryland, it is strange that we have less control over this area as the other cities do. So we really need to work on that as a city, as a community, to establish more control, more local control on the things that we really, really need.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
I didn't know if you were pointing in the middle or to me. Okay, good. Yeah. That's an interesting question. And it's one that many of you know that my position is to stop overdevelopment. And when I talk about stopping overdevelopment, I'm not talking about regular development and economic development. I'm just talking about these dense developments where we have these high density apartment complexes and other things where we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the schools and we don't have the roads to handle it. But one of the things when we talk about getting our own zoning, we know that's a legislative issue. With the county council as well, we need to work with them, as well as park and planning really just follows what the county council and others want in the state. So we need to work with them. But one of the things I will say is that you have to fight for what you believe in. You know, we have CB17 that's coming up at the airport. And I'm fighting against that because of the dangers on Church Road. I was the only mayor candidate who stood up before the county council and fought against CB17. And I'm very proud of that because we don't need that, and our family and our kids need to be safe, particularly on Church Road.
Thank you. And Mr. Jackson?
Yes. I feel that the city does not need to be overdeveloped anymore. I've had an aerial view of the city on Google Maps, and I've noticed it's very overdeveloped. I didn't even know my own city until I had actually left for the weekend and headed out and found out that it's very overdeveloped. I do not support it being any more overdeveloped than it is. However, I will not be supporting CB17. I think that the reason why is because Bowie is what Detroit is to Wayne County, the Queen City, and I think that it really needs to be regarded as such. And I really will focus on getting the city fine-tuned in unison with the county and the actual communities.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have two questions from the community, and I'm going to do my best to read them smoothly, so bear with me. My family and I have lived in Bowie for 18 years. Bowie is a great place in which to live, except for its public schools. If you were elected mayor to improve our schools, would you consider the city of Bowie assuming local control of all Prince George's County schools within our municipal boundaries? And there's a note at the end that says the PG public schools are the second worst rated in the system in Maryland. I'm going to start with Mr. Jackson this time.
Yes, I believe that, as I was saying earlier, that Bowie is what Detroit is to Wayne County. It is the Queen City, and I think as such we can hold down our own school system. I would be fully behind that. I know the Education Committee now offers many different programs and grants in unison with the school system, seemingly, and I support that Bowie would get its own stake in the county school system or its own school system.
Mr. Ruth?
Bowie is my home now, but I spent 8 years on school boards in California. In California, everybody has local control. I can tell you, when you have local control, you're in control of the education for your children. That's not the case here. When I first got here from California, I ran for the school board because I saw how things were. I didn't know enough people, so now I'm running for your mayor. But local control is so important because, one, you get to design your own schools. You get to pick your teachers. You have control of your revenue. I can go on and on and on about this because I've done it for 8 years. What I will tell you is that Prince George's County is in control of our school system. We're the ones voting for the board members in that school system. Once again, as a community, we have to let them know what we want, how we want it, and we want it now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Adams?
Well, I think it's important that we realize from a business perspective and for the growth of the city that we really do need to improve our education system. That's nothing new to any of us. And I know there are those of us who have challenged whether or not we should have complete control of our school system, at least when it comes to electing our school boards. I think the important part for us right now is to work with our school board, to work with dedicating our opportunities to cultivating a culture within the school system that raises the bar for us. And what I mean by that is we have to make sure we do more volunteerism for those to get into the school systems. We need to make sure that we completely work with our school board members to make sure that we assist in developing that. I'm sorry, I was distracted a little. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Lucchi?
Thank you for the question. I agree with the questioner that Bowie is a great place to live. And as I've visited hundreds of, actually more than 1,000 people at their doors and talked to them, they all believe that Bowie is a great place to live. There always is concern about public schools. I went to Bowie Public Schools. My children went to public schools. But I'm not in favor of the city running the schools. No other city in the state does that, and our city doesn't have the capacity to do that. I am a big fan of our new school superintendent, Monica Goldson, and I just want to recognize my good friend Ed Burrows in the back of the rooms on the Prince George's County School Board. Let's give him a hand, too, for what he does. But here's the thing. The city, the mayor and the city council can be big boosters and big cheerleaders for advocating for schools in Bowie. And the number one thing on our agenda, I believe, is a second high school in Bowie. The property has been there for 30 years. There's egress, there's access. It's a great location. It was supposed to have been on the plan many years ago, and then it didn't happen. And I think that's something we need to advocate for when Bowie High School has some people have lunch at 10 a.m., and they have 2 buildings they have to be in order to have it. So that's my agenda.
Thank you. Another question from the group? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I had your name down.
Not a problem. Thank you. It is a good question. And in the ideal world, maybe that would be the best solution, but it's not a practical one. We need to work with the county and the school board in order to get the resources dedicated to the classrooms that otherwise are missing. We had 12, 14 years ago, we almost had the high school. We got very far along the process when all of a sudden the politics blew up and we lost it. So what we need is a city council, a mayor, and a staff that is a strong advocate. We've done that over the 22 years I was in the city council. We had a strong advocacy for the school system, and it worked. But I think we need to take it to a new level, and I would look to see and appoint a full staff position to be a liaison to the school system, to the Board of Education, in order to better influence the decisions that are made that affect our children in our schools.
Thank you very much. The next question from the group is, the police department, an excellent one, was created via citizen referendum. Would you work to reverse the decision to build a second ice rink and put it into a citizen referendum so that the people of Bowie have the decision? Where do you stand on this? So, Mr. Jackson, we'll start with you.
I think the police department is great. I think the only thing that I would add to it is an auxiliary police department comprised of volunteers to work these streets and to work the station to take some of the load off our uniformed division and our detectives. But besides that, I think that all in all, the referendum concerning the ice rink is already in progress. From what I've seen, the ice rink is already under construction off of Church Road, and I think that I would go ahead and be fully behind it.
Okay, quiet please. No comments from the crowd. Mr. Adams?
Well, one of the reasons I'm running for mayor is to make sure that the citizens of Bowie have an honest voice speaking on their behalf. I think with major developments, with major investments that we make, it should be the citizens' voice that's heard. I believe that the referendum should have moved forward and should move forward, only from the standpoint of we should decide what we want in our city. We should not be told. There are economic impacts, there are other impacts. Don't get me wrong, I believe that there are 5 kids who want to become badminton specialists, that we should support those 5 kids as well. So it's nothing against those who are skating. My kids skated there. But I believe we need to have our voice heard and stop having people tell us what we want and listen to us for what we want. And so, yes, I believe the referendum gives us a fair shake of being able to hear the people's voice, and that's what's important. Your voice being heard honestly and truly.
Thank you. Mr. Lucci?
Thanks. First, with regard to the police referendum, I'm very proud to have been the chairman of the Citizens for Bowie Police that led the citizens campaign to pass that referendum, and the Bowie Police has been a great product of that we're all very proud of. With regard to the ice rink, we've had an ice rink for 49 years. I skated there when I was a child, and now it's fallen apart and they need a new one. But the idea of having a new ice rink, that ship has sailed. There was a recreation study with citizen involvement. There were contracts signed with a contractor with citizen involvement. There were bonds that were approved with citizen involvement. The bigger issue is who should pay for this? We are the only city in the county with our own Parks and Rec system that also pays the county park system. Laurel, Greenbelt, District Heights have their own park system. They don't pay the county park tax. Why should we pay twice? That's the bigger problem, is who should pay. Park and Planning has ice rinks in Laurel, and it has one in College Park, and it has one in Oxon Hill. Why aren't they the one to build the one in Bowie? I mean, that's the real question. Either they should build these things, we should have the benefit of our taxes, or we should stop paying their taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Brady?
It's a good question, and it's actually a bigger question is this has been an issue that's become a divisive action on the part with the citizens, and it's 5.5 years. 5.5 years ago, the intent was to replace the failing ice rink. Staff estimated $11 to $13 million to build it. We could have built it on Glen Allen, had it opened 3 years ago, and we could be dealing with other recreational amenities. It was an existing facility. In '96, I think it was, we went to referendum to seek voter approval for an indoor pool, and it went down. In 2005, we went to voter referendum on the police department, and it passed. Both of those were new services, not existing services. So the distinction there is the fact that we were looking to replace the ice arena, and now it's gotten to be $28 million. If you were to go to referendum and scrap it, they've already spent $4 million. I'd be concerned about wasting $4 million than trying to figure out a better way to pay for it through Park and Planning Partnership.
Thank you. Mr. Ruth?
Fantastic police department, Chief Nesky, all his officers. It's a good thing that we have a police department. A lot of communities don't have that. As for having a voice, referendum, any major purchases or major studies or major plans that we do, citizens have to be engaged. And this is what I talked about. You have to be engaged, you have to stay informed. We're trying to be your mayor, not the mayor. You know, so everything that goes down, we should be working for you. And that's what really I believe in, especially on major items like that. Your voice has to be heard on everything, and if even with participation, bonds, and all things like that, sometimes we still do have options, but we all have to get engaged. We have to be a part of it. You have to realize this is our city. We don't want to be the mayor, we want to be your mayor.
Thank you. I got everybody right? Okay. There's a little bit more time, so we have 2 more questions from the group, okay? The next one is, when will we get another high school? If we have time. Mr. Adams.
I think that's a great question because, boy, we've been waiting for that for a while, haven't we? I think there are a couple of things we need to understand that process, and understanding that we need to put the pressure on our state representatives, our delegation, to push for that. One of the things a lot of people aren't aware of is with the new development we're going to do of schools, if we could right now get the school board members, which I hope we can do, and I believe we can do, to put them on the list now. If we get all of our school board members to vote on it, we could get Bowie High School put on the list right now to have a new high school built. And I've been working very closely with our county exec and others, just talking in general, but mostly talking with our school board member to see that possibly being a reality. And that's why I've been working so hard to work with them to make that a reality. And I think every one of us in this room and everyone that's at this table should be working with me, and together we should be putting the pressure on them now to vote for that.
Thank you very much. That's your time. Mr. Ruth.
Our community deserves a new high school. I've had 2 children graduate out of that high school, and they did fantastic things, really fantastic things. Matter of fact, our daughter just gave back to the high school, doing a free clinic for the community. She's a professional athlete. This community definitely deserves a new high school, and we have to put the pressure on the people responsible to do that. The county school boards, the state, everybody that we know. Our children have to grow well-educated so they can be productive citizens for Bowie and for this country.
Thank you. Mr. Brady.
We should have gotten it 12 years ago. We have the property, or I should say the education department has the property. It's off of Mitchellville Road. What I would suggest is a strong quasi-public-private lobbying effort, and I would model it after what I did successfully in getting the South Bowie Library. In 1999, we went to the library system, the citizens that I was helping, and they told us the next time they were even considering building a new library was 20 years hence, in other words, now. We got together, we investigated the demographics of the area, the statistics, we lobbied them, we lobbied our local elected officials, county, and the state officials. We were successful in getting it. So I would look to harness the power of the people in order to leverage the new high school in the near future rather than having it sit on the books because they have the property and one day they'll get around to it. So I would say as soon as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Lucchi?
Thanks. First, I think former county council member and now Judge Ingrid Turner would be surprised to hear that you got the South Bowie Library when she says she got the South Bowie Library. Well, let's talk about Bowie High School. We talked before about how we need that, and we need it now. But maybe in the 21st century, we need to reconfigure what a high school looks like. There's a goal of 45% of children being ready for college. What about the other 55%? They need career and technical education so they could also survive in tight labor markets in this country that need workers with different certificates. So we need to rethink what a new high school looks like. And it's more than just the county school board, because you have to pass muster for the state and the Interagency Committee on School Construction. And when I worked for Wayne Curry, we had the only state mandate in the history of the state to build 16 new schools in Prince George's County, including Northview Elementary. And I was very proud of my involvement with that, with the backroom negotiating and getting that done. When Wayne left office, he put on the list that there should be a new South Bowie High School. And then subsequently he left, and that became Wise High School instead. So we need
That's
to
your
work
time.
together, and we need to advocate for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, I think that we are in need of a new high school, and I think it could be done by harnessing the power of our education committee and liaison and working towards getting a new school built, preferably off of what my colleague said of Mitchellville Road, where the land has already been acquired. I think that the best way to go about doing this is to work effectively with the liaison of the Education Committee to build the school, preferably off of Mitchellville Road, and to facilitate a safe and constructive learning environment that is not overcrowded and that is hopefully does not have any of what is plaguing the incumbent high school and the like.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for one more? Okay. This is the last one. What is your vision position on revitalization plans for the Bowie Town Center? And I think I'll start with you, Mr. Adams.
I just started, okay.
Oh, I can mix it up.
Okay. Well, my vision for the revitalization of the Bowie Town Center goes back to some of the things I was talking about a little earlier. And that is, we need to work in conjunction with some of the gems that we have here. It's about economic development. It's about bringing in new businesses. You know, I am fortunate enough with my business to be able to be talking with Bowie State, for example, about they have the BIC, they have an accelerator program for 8A businesses. We need to capture those businesses and bring those businesses and get them to stay within the city of Bowie to grow there. We need to talk about bringing in high tech in the sense of even bringing it over there by the town center. And what I mean by that is I'm fortunate enough to be doing prototyping, light manufacturing, and creating a new cybersecurity center that we're looking. And these aren't things in the future. These are things I'm working on now to make happen. So I think when we talk a little bit about what do we need to do, it's about the economic development, and it's about partnering with places like Bowie State to help fill in those gaps.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lucci, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think your question is about the revitalization of the retail center, the Bowie Town Center. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2000, so I'll answer that question then. In 2001, the Bowie Town Center was built, and it became the gem of the city of Bowie and this gem of Prince George's County, and it became the model for the whole country. That instead of having a closed mall surrounded by a sea of asphalt, you open it up and give it a town feeling. And we had some great stores, and a lot of them are still there, and they're stores that people liked. Shoot forward now to 2019, and I think people would say the quality of the retail is not the same as it used to be. And a lot of the stores have migrated to Wall Chapel. And the answer is not to wring our hands and say, oh, we're losing the stores to Wall Chapel. The answer is to be aggressive with economic development and figure out the retailers we want and go after them and go see the CEOs and go to their headquarters and bring them here, because that's what they do in Anne Arundel County. And the idea is also to figure out what it is we want, and restaurants too. But it's the retail center that we need. And Bowie has always had a great retail center. It's a center for people coming from all over the county. And I think that's what we could do, is just figure out what we want and go after it.
Thank you. Mr. Brady?
Thank you. It's a good question. I think it's important that the city work with the property owner to figure out what's the best vision for that property. The city can't go and do anything on its own, because we have limited role in the nurturing of private property, but we can be a partner with them. And I know John Henry King is doing all the things that Mr. Lucci has said with regards to reaching out to potential customer or potential businesses and their executive officers and what have you. So he does an excellent job with that. So it's a matter of redefining the niche there and realizing that things are changing. We don't have big commercial properties going in because the internet is taking away their businesses and what have you. And actually, I find it interesting that some people complain about too many restaurants going into certain places. Town Center is one of them. But in fact, restaurants bring foot traffic, and if you have the complementary stores to go with them, they would both equally benefit by the added customer base. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson,
Can you repeat the question?
what is your vision or position on revitalization plans for the Bowie Town Center?
I think that when the town center was constructed in 2002, I was just coming into Bowie. I was underage at the time, and I thought highly of the town center. I thought that the town center would attract many different walks of life, and combined with Bowie's International Festival, which is held at nearby Allen Pond Park, I thought that it would really bring the masses to Bowie and bring business to Bowie and jobs. I think the revitalization of it needs to be in effect, as it is over 10 years old and it needs to be revitalized. And I think that that is best done by working with our advisory planning board and the other boards that apply to that particular issue of city government.
Thank you. And Mr. Ruth.
The town center, just by its location and design, is a very desirable place for the city of Bowie. But we do have to partner, the city does have to partner with the owners because they have the sole control. We have to also have to look at our consumer trends and go after those businesses that are affecting our economic powers right now. But yes, the city has to partner with those owners, find out what their goals are, because there were some plans out trying to make it a mixed-use development, which mixed-use development is fine. That's having your housing and then also your shopping all in one place. It keeps the community walkable, close by. But yes, we have to keep up with our trends to get the right businesses in there. The location, its design has a bright, bright future.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the questions from the group. And before we switch out, I'd like, I think you each have a chance to have a final statement. So, Mr. Jackson, I think we'll start with you.
Voters of Bowie, distinguished guests, when I decided to run for a seat on the Bowie City Council, namely the office of mayor of the Bowie City Council, it wasn't because I craved the power and glory of being a mayor. It's because I was frankly concerned with the direction I saw the city going. Our city government should focus on three main priorities. First and foremost, public safety, where I plan on adding an auxiliary police department to our police department, comprised of volunteers, infrastructure, and the delivery of necessary services, and promoting an environment that attracts and retains businesses, period. Bowie is what Detroit is to Wayne County, the Queen City. As such, it needs to be regarded as one of the safest, hence my auxiliary police department. We go from issue to issue. There's no plan, no direction, little communication. Bowie deserves better. This is an election year, and the focus nationally is on politics. It's Republicans versus Democrats. Again, that's fine. There are clear differences between the Democrats and Republicans on the national and state level. And I'm not going to argue anyone's politics. What I will argue is this: those party labels and stereotypes are irrelevant.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brady?
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank the Chamber for putting it on, and want to thank the four other gentlemen up here at the dais with me for their love of the city. I am proud of my service to the city and to my country. I spent 22 years developing experience, gaining experience on the city council that I think will be very beneficial to the next mayor. You, the citizens, are our employers, and any employer knows that past success is an excellent indicator of future success. And I have had that experience, 22 years of experience. On November 5th, I respectfully ask for your vote as mayor. Experience matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ruth?
Thanks again for everybody coming out. We talked about the safe state of our city, talked about the pathways of our city and how we need to make some improvements, and we talked about the development. We also need to talk about our youth programs, also our senior programs. We have to measure what matters. I say it again, we need to measure what matters. Build from our strengths. I'm for engaging our community, balanced neighborhoods, and public safety. On November 5th, Emerson, DeWitt, Ruth, I want to be your new mayor. I have the integrity, knowledge, and courage to keep this city moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Hey, thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak here this evening. The things we need to understand, though, as we move forward, is where the city is going. We've talked about economic development, and I'm strong on that. We have to bring in the revenues through the new businesses to pay the price for all the beautiful things we have in the city. Again, the platform is just keeping the city safe, keeping it beautiful, and keeping it family friendly. But we need the revenues to do that. We have to continue to do that. We need to partner with our partners such as Bowie State. We need to create those opportunities. We need to understand, as we said, even as we talked about the Bowie Town Center, the days of the big box stores are gone. We have to make sure that we step up our game, that we create opportunities. Now, I know someone inferred, I've been on the boards of nonprofits, one that's $1 billion corporation, so I understand that. But I also understand when I'm talking to small businesses and those about creating opportunities, it's about creating a profit so we can have tax revenue and not just being a nonprofit.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lucchi.
Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. This is such an important part of democracy. We haven't had an open seat for mayor for a couple of decades, and so your interest is terrific. Thanks so much to the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce for putting on an excellent forum. I want to say categorically that I agree with Mr. Brady. Experience matters, but it's got to be the right kind of experience. It's not just being a vote. You have to be a voice, a strong voice, and that's my record, getting things done for the City of Bowie at the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level. No one here has that experience that I have, and that's why I ask you for your vote. People love the City of Bowie. They love the quality of life here. They love the amenities we have. They love the Boys and Girls Clubs and the veterans organizations and the churches. They love all of that. But people are getting tired of our roads getting clogged, and they're getting tired of some of the older developments where the houses are not as beautiful as they used to be. So we can do better. I plan on being a very customer-oriented mayor. I'll have office hours all over the city at first Saturday of every month because I think that's a part of my job. Thank you.
Let's give him a big hand, everybody. Got a point of special privilege. There are 2 elected officials in the building tonight. One is our great delegate, Marvin Holmes, if you could just wave for a moment. And I do believe I see Delegate Dr. Ron Watson in the back, if you could just wave. Thank you. Did I miss any other elected officials? Of course. District 2, could you please, Mr. Dufour, Councilman Dufour. Wolfley. Thank you, Monica. All right. I think I got everybody. This is the worst part. All right. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over. Okay. All right. We're going to go through the at-large candidates forum, but we're going to let them each introduce themselves like we did before. We're not going to redo all the rules. Everybody still understands the rules of engagement? No questions from the crowd except for what's been turned in. Ms. Harrison.
Good evening. My name is Ingrid Harrison, and I would be honored to serve the residents of Bowie as one of the at-large council members. Thank you to Pauline and the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum and inviting me to participate. I believe I bring the value, experience, commitment, community service, diversity, and the passion for helping the residents and the people the City of Bowie. As a resident of Bowie and Prince George's County resident for over 24 years, I have a significant history of professional experience in serving the citizens of Bowie, as demonstrated through my work as a workforce development professional, my work with the County Council, my work as a current elected official on the Central Committee, my work with state officials, and work as president of a successful nonprofit. And most importantly, my job as a mother to my 2 children. As your at-large council member, my most important job is listening to you and taking care of constituent concerns. The best part of this campaign journey has been knocking on over 2,000 doors and listening to the ideas and concerns of the residents. Some of the top issues shared with me include development, taxes, code enforcement, Bowie Town Center store retention, and community involvement. One thing about me, I am a woman of my word. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I will do it. And the only people I am beholden to are you, the residents of Bowie. I look forward to making the tough decisions, but not without your input. It's not about me, it's about we. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Mr. Kuzan.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dustin Kuzan, and I bought a house here in Bowie in 2009 with my college sweetheart at the age of 23. We bought here mainly, one reason was because of the proximity to all the cities around, which opened up doors for jobs, but primarily because we felt a sense of community here, a community that we felt like we could raise a family in. Well, her and I didn't work out, but I'm still here. I kept the house. So now at 33, I'm here. I'm hoping to stay here and raise my own family in the future. So starting in 2011, I got involved with the community, and I decided to give back and improve the community. Since then, I've served in leadership roles in many different groups, and I even started 2 groups in the city, one of which is the Old Bowie Arts and Entertainment District group. It was a dream, not my dream, but I decided that's a dream that Bowie needs to make a reality, so I decided to take action. For my day job, I'm a civil engineer, and I work with agencies and municipalities up and down the East Coast to improve communities. I design transportation infrastructure, I plan for creative placemaking, I develop strategic plans and policies that improve the communities and improve the efficiency of government. I have a master's in public administration, which is a study of government bureaucracy, and I've worked for one of the largest bureaucracies in the state, which is Maryland State Highway Administration. I know how to manage government bureaucracy. I'm running for city council because, as boring as it may seem to some people, I actually enjoy navigating the bureaucracy, and I love to improve the quality of life for residents. And I actually love to engage residents, even if it is complaining. I like taking those issues and then turning around and trying to find creative solutions to solve them. So I may be the youngest candidate in the at-large race, but I have no shortage of experience.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure.
That are not here. You go ahead and say the name.
Alegbeleye. He could not be here due to a family commitment this evening, and Mr. Gardner also, he could not be here due to being out of town on business. So.
Good, point of order. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the introductions, and we're going to do three questions from the council, and then we have a stack of questions from the crowd. So I'm going to read the first one. In a climate wherein it appears that quality retail is leaving Bowie and moving to Crofton, what are your plans to incentivize existing businesses to stay and new businesses to come? So we'll start with the same order. Ms. Harrison, if you want to start.
Well, the most significant area, as I mentioned before, in regard to the question, is retention of businesses in the Bowie Town Center. So my plan would be to meet with property owners and town center management to find out the cause of the moves. Some ideas I have to host, to help with store owner and retention is workshop for store owners that would include demographic information so they can have targeted marketing campaigns, host a shop local campaign, promote our educated population, thus creating a stable educated workforce, and provide creative business incentives to come to Bowie and to stay in Bowie. Of course, infrastructure plays a big part in attracting and retaining businesses, so we have to work on transportation and communicating with the residents. I envision the city, Bowie Town Center management, business owners, and the chamber working together. If elected, I would like to play a major role in honing the city's strategy and growing our economy.
Mr. Kuzan?
So I think the appeal to the Crofton area is because of the new stores that are there versus our old aging infrastructure in the Bowie Town Center. And I think that people want to go to those stores because of the better quality as well. So how do we get better quality stores in the Bowie Town Center? And if you look at what other cities are doing around the country and even locally, there's a big emphasis on creative placemaking. It's an idea that you bring, you focus on public space where people can gather and spend time. So it becomes a place, a destination that people can enjoy. And when people go there, then they're more willing to spend money. Instead of, if they are going to a single store, then they're more inclined to just stay at home and order it online. So I believe that we could put some money towards creative placemaking in the Bowie Town Center to bring people back.
Thank you. Second question. Bowie is starting to look a little run down, with people leaving their trash cans in the front yards, grass not mowed, siding falling down. How do you intend to work with city code to ensure that residents take care of their houses and follow code? And we're going to just reverse the order, so Mr. Kuzan, you can start.
Sure. So most of my experience with code enforcement comes from my HOA, where they're very, very strict, and they'll measure your grass, or at least one guy will, so if it gets an inch over. So I do recognize that some people feel that code enforcement can be a burden on them, and I do think that we, as a city, we should maybe look at ways and look at the property owners to see if we can offer assistance in certain ways. If it's elderly, if they struggle maintaining their property because they're not able to do the physical work or they don't have the money to do it, I would look at ways that we could partner with nonprofit groups to help those residents accomplish that, to come into code. I do think that we need to, if it's in the books and it's on the law, that we do, in order to be fair to everyone, that we do have to enforce it. And maybe we can give warning letters first, and then before we give any citations. So, thank you.
So code enforcement is one of the major issues I've heard in my door-knocking journey, and it certainly should be a significant priority for the city. Home values are directly impacted by nearby homes that are not maintained. Therefore, we certainly would, and I certainly would, like to review the current code enforcement policies, the staffing levels, and the staff roles.
Thank you. Third question. If elected, what would be your top 3 priorities? So we'll start. Ms. Harrison, you can start.
Okay. Top 3 priorities. Be committed to controlled growth with heavier consideration of infrastructure and cost first. Determine ways to increase the commercial tax base so the tax base grows larger to lessen the impact to individual tax burden. And increased community involvement, more town hall style meetings to get input from the residents before decisions are made.
Hello. All right. My top 3 priorities. First of all, we're coming on, or approaching a new master plan update. I think this is going to be very important to setting the land use and the vision for the city, and it's going to have an effect on us many years to come. So I'd like to make that a priority, and through that process, I'd like to work with each and every resident and all the associations to make sure that that vision that everyone has is captured so that we have a city that everyone wants to see in the next 20 years. Number two, I'd like to focus economic development and shift the way that the paradigm that we currently have about economic development. Instead of focusing on new residential, I'd like to focus on the current businesses and building the current shopping centers and bringing in more revenue through those. And I think that we can offset the lost revenue from additional from additional residents. The third is transportation. I think we need to take a different approach to transportation as well.
All done? Sorry. No, I was meaning all done with the questions to myself. It was a question. So we have questions from the floor, and we're going to do as many as we have time for. Are we good on time to do 3 or 4? Okay. So I'm trying to make sure I keep track so I'm not making you all be starting and ending at the same time. So this question is, what are your views on public-private partnerships on major sporting facilities, making Maryland Park and Planning invest more in Bowie? Do you want to start, Ms. Harrison?
And actually, I think the public-private partnerships are a great idea, although I would like to certainly get more information on how that works before I can make a decision on how it would impact and how it would help Bowie.
I think public-private partnerships in general can be a very beneficial thing for government. I think it allows government to do a lot more than it would normally be able to do on its own. And if there is a demand and a desire from the public to have additional recreational facilities, I think we should really look into those instead of having the burden fall on the taxpayers. So in general, I would be supportive in at least investigating that and trying to work with private partners to build facilities.
Thank you. Next question. We've had the same leadership in Bowie for some time now. What new perspective do you bring to the city of Bowie? Why do you stand out as the new leader of the community? And I think we'll just stay with the order that we've been going with.
I have a breadth of experience working with the residents of Bowie. And I currently work as an outreach and communications manager for Employ Prince George's, where we serve as the bridge between businesses and job seekers to help our residents find employment and find qualified talent for our businesses. I serve as an elected member of the Democratic Central Committee, on the executive board, and the co-chair of the legislative committee. I also serve on the executive board overseeing the construction of the Liberty Sports Park. For almost 10 years, I worked as a community outreach coordinator in the Prince George's County Council in the District 4 office. I identified ways to enhance service to the community and develop and maintain a positive and public image. As the 11th president of my local sorority, I also served as president of the local philanthropic arm of the chapter and worked closely with a team of officers and board of directors to facilitate the work of over 500 members.
Thank you.
Okay. Mind repeating that one more time?
Sure. We've had the same business leadership in Bowie for some time now. What new perspective do you bring to the city of Bowie? Why do you stand out as a new leader of the community?
Sure. So I've spent most of my career working with different communities, mostly in Maryland, but all up and down the East Coast, and how to redevelop those communities, bring new life, bring a sense of culture, bring a sense of vibrancy. Some are more urban communities where they want to have higher density, but some have also been rural communities where they don't want any development. And there's always a way to build culture and community and build a sense of place that the community can be proud of. So I think my unique perspective is coming from that I would work with our citizens to develop that unique, what it is that we want as Bowie residents to be proud of. What is it that we want Bowie to be unique with. And I think that I can help implement that vision so that we one day do have a city that we can all be proud of. Thanks.
The next question, we'll keep going with the same order. What's next for redeveloping Old Bowie?
Well, I would actually like to, if I am elected and if my counterpart here is elected, I would like to work with him in looking at an arts district. I support that in the city of Bowie. So, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kuzan?
I'd also like to work with Ingrid on making that, making the Bowie Arts and Entertainment District happen. I would like to work with her to make that happen. I actually started the effort that's currently underway now. We started officially back in February, but conversations were going on long before then. And I do think that that's the perfect solution. Maybe not perfect, but the most ideal solution that we can find right now, because it allows us to maintain the integrity of the historic buildings there. It allows us to keep small venues and allows us to have a unique place that people can feel the history and they could feel the art, and it also generates revenue and builds business. So, so I would work on making the arts district a reality there. Thank you.
You both get extra points for the camaraderie. All in favor of joint member? No. Thank you. Okay, another question. This may be our last question. What is your vision, position? Oh, whoops. Oh, no, this is Old Bowie, Old Town Center. What is your vision, position on revitalization plans for the Bowie Town Center? Did we? Developing Old Bowie? We asked the mayors that, so.
What did she say?
You know what? Pauline suggests that we're done, which I'm all in favor for. I know it's been pleasant, but it's getting on. So I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and ask for closing statements from each of you. Okay. Which one of you went first? Okay, Mr. Kuzan, you can go first this time.
Is this working? Yeah. It is? Okay. All right. So I believe I bring a strong vision to the City Council with the know-how to implement it. I plan to develop new strategies for economic development that moves away from relying on new residential development and steers us towards innovative or non-traditional approaches like creative placemaking to achieve fiscal sustainability. As your councilman, I will dedicate my next 4 years to listening to each and every resident who wants to talk to me. I believe half of this job is being responsive and listening, while the other half is finding ways to implement those requests. I've been listening during my campaign, and I've even been listening well before that to what people want to see in Bowie. I will continue to listen and work hard to establish a plan for a future Bowie that all of us will be happy to live in. I will work tirelessly to first refine the vision and capture it as our vision in the upcoming master plan. Then I'll work to implement strategies to make this vision a reality. I'll start with implementing quick and incremental strategy. Okay. Well, I'll start with short incremental strategies that get quick results and then put long-term things into motion for the long term. So, thank you.
Thank you.
If I'm elected, I plan to work with my colleagues, the city manager, city agencies, city committees, community leaders, and most importantly, you, the residents, to ensure we are working on and fighting on your behalf. And I'm counting on you to keep us accountable. If I'm elected as your council member, I would host town hall meetings and listening sessions in each district to hear from you so we can work together to do what's in the best interest of the city. The bottom line is, I will bring all stakeholders together to make informed decisions, ensuring we both understand the impact of decisions made by the council. I am your new voice with a new vision and a familiar face. A new voice for a city council that is missing a critical voice for a large population that statistically encompasses a majority of voters in most elections, women. A new vision that will inspire us to work harder to bring our money back to Bowie. A familiar face you know you can depend on that will work with you to increase citizen engagement and sustain growth through responsible planning and a unified community. Please vote for me on November 5th. I'm Ingrid Harrison. Thank you.
Two more quick things. I just want to make an official thank you for letting me do this, and also thank you very much to the candidates, and thank everybody that showed up and took interest. So a big round of applause for everybody. And Pauline has a quick closing.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Okay, definitely want to thank Bowie Living for being here. Mike Ruck, is that how you pronounce your last name? Sorry. Rauch, forgive me. But thank you so much for recording and making this possible. And Mark Patterson, he is always my go-to. Thank you. And Brad Highland, he is amazing. He's been with the chamber for 3 years. He's always available when I call him, and he was good enough to do this today and be able to read through my chicken scratch of a script. So thank you. I'd like to also again thank the board and the citizens of Bowie, because this is really about our future and how we want to be, and our participants too. So thank you. I appreciate everybody and your support. Our timekeeper who tried to keep me focused. And again, thank you so much. If you'd like to know anything about the chamber, please reach out to one of our board members, or you can stop by the chamber office. We also have directories in the back. And did I do all of my housekeeping? Oh, yeah, that's another thing. We have a lot of questions we couldn't get to tonight, so what we'd like to do is handle them and maybe get them to the candidates, and then we can post them on the website, their answers. So thank you for attending. And
our next forum is?
May I announce it? It's a mix and mingle, and it is October 14th. And so we're inviting the candidates here. They can set up tables, and it's more of a meet and greet, mix and mingle. You can have individual conversations. So look for your emails. Something will come out with that. Thank you, Catherine. And good night. Thank you so much. You're awesome.